Hello there, let's begin. In the modern world, political groups ranging from Christian fundamentalists to the Ba'athist Party of Iraq each attempt to gain legitimacy via drawing attention to the crusading past. They each harken back to their religious predecessors, co-opting images and messages from that time in order to justify their actions of violence as merely a continuation of centuries-old struggle. Yet, how does this narrative relate to the actual reality of the Crusades? In order to unravel this complicated issue, our best course of action as historians is, of course, to refer back to the primary sources. The works of Usama ibn Munkid can show us a closer look into the interactions between the Franks, the word that the Muslims use to describe various, what we consider now, Western European ethnic groups, and the Muslims themselves. Munkid was an adib, essentially a nobleman of letters, who served in the courts of several major Muslim dynasties, such as the Zengids and the Ayyubids. While it should be noted that his account is more of a series of humorous tales to garner laughs at court than a serious historical narrative, they nonetheless offer insights into the reality of the crusading past. Rather than this monolithic us versus them struggle often portrayed by modern extremist groups, they present a much more nuanced picture. As we shall see shortly. Come with me.
Good there, my good Christian peasants.
I'm not a Christian.
What?
I'm not a Christian, I'm a Muslim.
But you're on Christian land.
What difference does it make?
Well, shouldn't it be obvious? Christians should work on Christian land.
Oh, Christians should work on Christian land, eh? That is an antiquated opinion that's no longer valid. So my opinion, and that of the lords of this land, that Christians need...
What are you talking about?
The Kingdom of Jerusalem, while successful militarily and territorially, has not mobilised a sufficient demographic transition to replace the indigenous labour force. So you're forced to rely on me, the humble Muslim few. This is of course also the case in the Principality.
Just shut up!
According to the Treaty of Ramla, Frankish and Muslim lords may make treaties in which all the revenues of certain lands are shared in equal split, while government and legislation are driven by one party.
Yeah,
this is of course regulated by the Treaty of Ramla and protected by the suspension clause.
Just stop talking!
Should hostilities once again resume, treaty is not nullified and therefore remains in effect once peace is restored.
Stop talking!
Help!
Just,
This is in violation of the condominium. I know my rights.
Just go off.
The condominium the eloquent peasant just spoke about is an often underappreciated aspect of the Crusader world. The establishment of the Crusader states and the conflict that ensued with this process necessitated the creation of new diplomatic tools to regulate interaction between the Franks and the Muslims. The first of these was the aforementioned idea of a condominium, which entailed the shared governance of a specific piece of land by nobles from both parties. Within this arrangement, it was determined that sovereignty over, administration of, and revenue from the condominium would be divided equally. Christians who committed crimes within this territory would be judged and sentenced by the Frankish law and legal system, whereas Muslims would be dealt with by the Sultan's officials. Another significant tool developed for Frankish-Muslim relations was that of the suspension clause, a legal tool by which existing interfaith treaties, such as truces or alliances, would be suspended rather than annulled when a crusading campaign was launched. Once this religious campaign was concluded, these agreements would then come back into effect.
I'm sorry, good man. You seem to be praying in the wrong direction.
I'm not.
Yes, you are. You see, you are facing south, while you should be facing east.
I know what I'm doing.
Now, just here, let me help you.
No, don't touch me,
hey.
please.
I'm trying to save your soul.
Hey,
Just.
I'm just trying to break it up. What are you doing? We're in a holy place. You can't disturb the nobles while they're at prayer.
I'm just trying to help him. Why are you helping him? You should be helping me. You are a Templar.
That may be so. I don't think you understand how things work around here, do you?
No, it's just...
No, come on. You're
Yeah,
done.
no.
Out you go. I'm so sorry. Please go back to praying.
Nothing I'm good, thanks.
As Munkard's story in the mosque shows us, relations between the Frankish and Muslim nobility were not as hostile as some contemporaries might have you believe. Far from living in two distinct and monolithic worlds separate from one another, these two groups frequently interacted with one another across porous borders. This can best be seen through the lens of diplomacy. The Ayyubid political world was rife with internal competition between peripheral lords and the Sultan, whose power base was centered in Egypt. In order to retain their autonomy, these regional lords were willing to make alliances with any friendly parties around. In service of this end, the Muslim lords of Aleppo maintained strong political ties with the Frankish Prince of Antioch. Similarly, when faced with an Egyptian incursion, the Muslim lords of Damascus turned to both the Kingdom of Jerusalem and even the Knights Templar themselves to fight alongside them. As Conrad Hirschler notes, these are indicative of the full integration of the Frankish lordships into inner Ayyubid politics. Following the initial shock of the Crusaders' arrival, they became another usable piece on the chessboard of Levantine politics. This clearly indicates that the obsession with religion as the key factor in the Crusades present in modern narratives is not telling the full story. Influential narratives in the far right seem to believe that religion was an all-consuming concern for all parties at all times, but the primary evidence clearly shows us that both sides are willing to look beyond it in service of realpolitik.
Oi! Well. Who do we have here?
I'm Francois de Toulouse, crusading knight.
Well, Francois, you nicked, son. I hear you've been disturbing the peace in our little slice of holiness.
We just tried to crusade.
Well, clearly you don't know how things work around here. And not to disturb the peace we have going on. Luckily enough, we have a system for dealing with melts like you.
I will gladly prove my innocence in the eyes of God.
Excellent. Draw your sword. I present His Majesty's Judicial Champion, Derek. Good showing, good showing. The law wins again.
Perhaps, from its position in a wide variety of medieval-themed media, it would be easy to write off the trial by combat as some kind of absurd fantasy. Yet it was a very real part of the Frankish legal system. Munkard writes about it as a total absurdity, so outlandish to him that he would insert a full, proper legal proceeding into what is essentially a comedic work. Nonetheless, it can still show us a bit about the nature of cross-cultural exchanges within the Crusades. Ibn Munkard was freely able to watch the proceedings despite not being one of the Franks, and his astonishment shows us once again how the Franks had no desire to press their laws onto their allies, or prevent the Muslims from taking part in what could be considered a form of entertainment in a public fight. Ibn Munkard, including this in the Book of Contemplations, could possibly tie into the overall attitudes of the Muslims towards the Franks, as a bizarre and violent tribe of barbarians, although not purely in a negative light, as Ibn Munkard also wrote that he was impressed at the martial abilities of the Franks, and that this alone requires them to have a level of honour, even if it's in a different kind to his own. The exchange of ideas between Muslim and Frankish groups was another underestimated aspect of the Crusader Levant. Munkard's stories contain several observations about Frankish medicine. Some are somewhat disparaging, however, several other tales are somewhat more optimistic towards Frankish medical capability. Chief among these is his reference to an artisan from his hometown of Shaizar, who had a son who was infected with tuberculosis. When he and his son were travelling in Frankish Antioch, a local Frank offered him a remedy free of charge, asking only that the artisan refrain from charging anyone else for its usage in the future. This remedy successfully healed the boy. Similar cultural exchanges occurred via the growth of a strong trading link between the Muslim and Christian worlds. In particular, the Italian trading cities of Genoa, Pisa, and Venice overlooked the religious difference present in order to trade and profit. They did this despite the efforts of several popes to enforce an ideologically charged embargo of trade with Muslims, which utterly failed to materialize in practical reality. Similarly, modern narratives of the Crusades often concern themselves too heavily with ideology rather than concerning the practical realities of what took place.
Where am I?
You're in the Jerusalem Bimarista. Please sit still and tending to your wounds.
No, who are you?
I am Selim, the local doctor. Please, I am applying the poultice to you. You need to stay still.
No,
Please.
I demand a Christian doctor. I want a Christian doctor.
It's well within your rights.
My Muslim colleague has called me over. I am Fabian von Regensburg zu Wittelsbach. I will be treating you today.
Oh, thank you, my good Christian doctor.
What seems to be the problem?
Oh, I have a headache. I can't walk.
You can't walk. I'm afraid that means I have to remove your leg.
No, why? It's just a headache.
Would you rather die with both legs? Or live with one?
I want to live. Just save me.
Then I will begin the procedure.
Okay.
I will remove your leg with one fell swoop. It didn't come off quite yet. As Franks, we do have strong muscles. We do. We have very strong. Your leg. You should be fine now.
He's dead.
No, he isn't.
Yes, he is.
He's resting.
He's not resting.
Look, he moved. He's
He
awake.
fell onto the ground because you cut his leg off.
I did not.
Yes, you did. You just threw it away.
I did no such thing.
Yes,
he's
you
he's
did.
all right.
He's
He'll
not
be storming the Holy Land in no
He
time.
won't be storming anywhere. He's not got one leg.
Yes, because that's part of the procedure.
Part of the procedure. What are you son about?
It was going to spread to his lungs, and then he couldn't breathe.
You cut
You
his
know,
leg
it's,
off.
you can't walk, and then you
what do
can't breathe. That's how it goes.
Oh, this is just like that woman the other day. You cut her skull open with a scalpel because you thought she had demons in her head. She had a migraine.
Oh, don't bring up that woman again. I learned from that, and I didn't cut open this gentleman's head.
Oh, I learned from it. I cut his leg off instead of cutting his head open. That's a step in the right direction.
Well, I had to balance his humours.
Balance his humours. You don't think he's got any fucking humours left.